the fact that the Cowboys have waited this long is really a little befuddling. All right, welcome in. It is the Breer Report for July the 23rd. As you can see, I'm coming to you from a hotel room. These will be the sorts of settings that we're going to be coming to you from over the next month or so as I make my way across the country. Plan is to see about 25 teams in person. We'll be with the Vikings today. It was with the Lions yesterday. As a result of that, we're going to have a ton of content coming to you. All your normal Breer Reports, all your normal video mailbags, all of our normal online content, and we'll have takeaways from every camp that I go to, both print and video. The video edition of my Lions Camp Takeaway should be up on the site later today and, of course, on all of our social channels, so be sure to check that out. Our first news topic for this Wednesday morning and during my camp trip is that Terry McLaurin is now officially a holdout. He did not report to Commanders Camp. He did not take part in their conditioning run, and he is now subject to daily fines of $50,000. Those are mandatory. They also cannot be forgiven because McLaurin is no longer on a rookie contract. So how does this thing play out? Well, over about a month period, there was very little communication between McLaurin and the Commanders. That has changed recently, but it doesn't sound like they've made a ton of progress yet on a new deal. That said, there have been some things that have happened over the course of the last few weeks that I think help in getting a deal done. One is Garrett Wilson, another former Ohio State receiver, doing a deal. His deal was at $32.5 million per year. Now, of course, he's much younger than Terry McLaurin, but it does further illustrate that the market for veteran receivers is over $30 million now. It makes the Justin Jefferson deal and the CeeDee Lamb deal of a year ago look a little less like outliers. So there's a little bit of a framework there that you can work from. This, of course, is a more difficult deal because Terry McLaurin is turning 30 soon. But with all this talk out there that this could lead to a trade and I still think the most likely scenario in the end is that there is some sort of resolution, and maybe it comes soon. This, to me, is a lot like the T.J. Watt situation in Pittsburgh. Anybody who listened to me over the course of the last 2 months has heard me say I never thought T.J. Watt was going to play anywhere but Pittsburgh. It was really a matter of finding a way to come to the right number. The pass rusher market, like the receiver market, has escalated quickly over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. So there's some adjustment that needs to happen there. And for some teams, they need to see that the deals at the top of the market aren't outliers. And so in the TJ Watt situation, it was not just Myles Garrett getting done, but then Max Crosby and Danielle Hunter getting done after him. In this situation, again, the Garrett Wilson deal can help to illustrate where the Commanders are going to have to go to get something done. I also think it's like the Watt situation in this way. The Steelers didn't go get Aaron Rodgers, Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, all those guys to trade away the best player of the core that they're trying to maximize right now. Similarly, the Commanders did not trade for Marshawn Lattimore, Laramie Tunsil, Deebo Samuel, with the idea that Terry McLaurin wasn't going to be on the team. Because the whole idea of what they're doing now this is a little different than Pittsburgh, but they're trying to maximize the window that they have with Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract after winning 12 games and going to the NFC title game a year ago. They're trying to put their young quarterback in the best position to succeed, and that does not happen without Terry McLaurin on the roster. So this thing could well get uglier before it gets done, but I do think at some point soon it's going to get done because there's too much mutual interest here in getting it done. There's too much mutual benefit in getting it done, similar to the amount of mutual benefit there was in Watt and the Steelers finding common ground. All right, second topic. This one's a little bit different. The Micah Parsons situation continues to simmer in Dallas, or as it stands right now in California with the Cowboys out there for training camp. And Jerry Jones made some very pointed comments at the podium in his annual camp opening press conference, where he not only said that there's a lot of risk in doing a deal for Micah Parsons, but there's a lot of risk in doing deals earlier than they've done than the point they're at with Micah Parsons, where they have done deals for guys after 3 years and it's bitten them. He actually used examples of guys who are still on the team, and Terrence Steele and Trayvon Diggs. And so Jerry, in a lot of different ways during his camp opening press conference, and maybe he was honest, but he also kicked a real hornet's nest there. And because of that, I think you see you get a window into where the Micah Parsons situation is right now, in that they aren't close to doing a deal, and there isn't a great synergy on where they need to be between the player side and the team side. But I think it's obvious where this is going. And this is where I can relate it back to the other situations that I just discussed with Terry McLaurin and TJ Watt. There is no doubt now where the edge rusher market is. You have players that aren't as young, aren't as talented, and aren't quite as productive as Micah Parsons getting into the 30s in the edge rusher market. Then you have the real premier guys, Myles Garrett at 40, TJ Watt at 41. So there's very little question that Micah Parsons is going to have to be paid in the 40s. I think there's the idea that this could be up to $45 million. This could be up to $45 million per year based on the fact that Micah Parsons is so much younger than both Watt and Garrett. And that's going to be a tough pill for the Cowboys to swallow. And in a lot of ways, it's similar to the situation they were in last year with Dak Prescott and with CeeDee Lamb. And the Dak Prescott situation in particular is interesting because they waited, and then over the course of that offseason, Tua Tagovailoa gets done, Trevor Lawrence gets done, Jared Goff gets done. And so that Joe Burrow deal that was done the year before wasn't an outlier. It was a market setter. And so you saw quarterbacks that weren't as accomplished as Dak getting paid at close to the level Joe Burrow was, at least on an average per year basis. And then it became very easy for Dak's side to say, well, you need to pay us here, especially because we have this leverage of being able to hit free agency after this year with the way the logistics of the franchise tag work. Parsons doesn't have that leverage point with the Cowboys, but he does have all the data points now that Dak Prescott had a year ago. So whether it happens now, whether it happens a month from now, this is something the Cowboys have to do. I don't see Jerry Jones walking away from Micah Parsons. I could see teams making phone calls on him, but I don't see Jerry Jones walking away from Micah Parsons. And if this means that Micah Parsons is going to be half-hearted or is going to hold in through training camp, then that's only going to hurt the 2025 Cowboys. So this situation to me is pretty messy, and I'm not sure exactly how they solve it other than just putting a 4 at the beginning of the number that they give him on an average per year basis and giving him a 9-figure guarantee. And I don't think any other conclusion gets this thing done. And the fact that the Cowboys have waited this long, I mean, to go into that area and to get this thing done is really a little befuddling. Finally, our third topic. This is a little bit of a happier topic. Tyrann Mathieu retires after 12 seasons in the NFL. I think this is a guy who should be fondly remembered and will be fondly remembered in several different cities that he played in. I think the people in Arizona remember him fondly. I think the people in Kansas City remember him fondly. Certainly people in New Orleans remember him fondly. And he was a great, great player. And one of the most instinctive, physical, versatile defensive backs of his era. He could do it all. And this was something I think we all saw when he was at LSU, and he was a Heisman contender. When he was first dubbed the Honey Badger back in 2011. So who he is as a player is really impressive, but also it's about who he is as a person. And he had so many issues coming out of LSU from an off-field standpoint. He was suspended for that last year at LSU. The guy that we saw as a true sophomore in 2011, we never got to see him as a college junior. And so the reason that he fell to the third round in the NFL draft is because a lot of teams had taken him off at their board. And to me, and this is a guy who I got to know a little bit, this was always a guy who's very good-hearted. But this, to me, tells the entire story of Tyrann Mathieu. I think this is the one thing that has really stuck me over the years. When I was doing reporting on him back in 2013 before he came out for the draft, there were teams that felt like they could not draft Tyrann Mathieu because they were within driving distance of New Orleans, where he grew up. Because they felt like if they drafted him and he was that close to the trouble that he got into when he was younger, that the whole thing would blow up on him. So This is a guy who was taken off draft boards because teams felt like they were geographically too close to New Orleans, that he couldn't handle that. And now that all comes full circle with him finishing his career in his hometown and being such a positive influence on young kids in his hometown, such a positive influence in the community. I just think it's remarkable the way that Tyrann Mathieu, and I don't know that he reinvented himself as a person, because again, I think he was always a good-hearted guy, but changed his image, changed his approach, and grew. Just really, really impressive. And so I don't know if Tyrann Mathieu gets in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was an all-decade player for the 2010s. So I think he's a name that'll at least come up in the room. But this was a Hall of Fame teammate. And most remarkably, I think he became, for the people around him, a Hall of Fame person. And I don't think very many people would have guessed that when he came out in 2013. And that is about as impressive as anything a guy can accomplish in the NFL from at those ages, when a guy's in his 20s and his early 30s. So happy trails of Tyrann Mathieu. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, be sure to follow us as we hit the road over the course of the next month. We will have insight into your favorite team, whoever that favorite team is. And also be sure to check out our quarter century series. That's up on the site now. We got an all quarter century team. We've got a bunch of stories reviewing the last 25 years. Our editor, Mitch Goldrich, coordinated all that. Lots of good stuff up there. And we will be back with another Breer Report video mailbag edition tomorrow morning.